Sadly, all good things must come to an end. Hey there, Z Nation fans. Welcome back to the final episode of Z Nation's After Show. Although maybe not. We'll talk about it later. But for right now, we're covering Season 5, Episode 13, The End of Everything. We're going to be breaking down this final episode. And guys, we also have a couple special guests joining us tonight, so stay tuned.
You're tuned in to AfterBuzz TV, the ESPN of TV talk. Now, let the buzz begin.
I don't think I can, overemphasize how hauntingly beautiful this full song is.
It's absolutely incredible. And I guess it only went up a few days ago, so hey, timing.
Yeah, I want it. I'm really glad I got a couple iTunes gift cards for Christmas, so I am going to be trundling on over to iTunes and buying it soon.
Nice.
Well, anyway, hey there, Z Nation fans. Welcome back. We are covering the final episode of Z Nation tonight, The End of Everything. Let's not waste any time. I'm Megan Salinas, and let me introduce my fantastic panel. To my left, Katie Cullen.
Hi, all my buddies.
To her left, Michelle Cullen.
Hey, how's it going?
And joining us on the couch, we have two returning guest star champions. We have the showrunner, executive producer, and writer, Karl Schaefer. Woo!
Thank you. Hello. Glad to be here.
And we also have the director of tonight's episode, Alexander Yellen. Woo!
Good to be back, thank you.
And yes, in the spirit that Kalita set a couple of episodes ago, we have champagne.
Oh, just like left over from when Kalita was here?
No, it's fresh.
We picked this up special. So, cheers everyone to the final episode.
To Kalita.
She says hi.
Well, let's get right into it, guys. Let's go ahead and talk about it. Like, what did you guys think of, now that it's out there? What was it like getting to see fans react to the final episode?
Well, it was really interesting to see how many people, how it fit into their lives and what it meant to them, and how much they wanted it to go on, and it was interesting to see just the number and different types of people and from all over the place that were fans of the show, and like us, kind of surprised that it ended, but not surprised that it did, because it always felt like we were getting away with something, and somebody was going to catch up with us sooner or later, and I guess it was later in this case.
Yeah, I think it's all very bittersweet. There's just been this huge outpouring of love and affection for the show, and for everybody on it, and sort of for the role it filled in people's lives. And there are petitions floating around to save Z Nation, to move it to other networks, and we'll see if something happens. But I think everybody who worked on it was extremely proud of the work. Is extremely proud of the work that we did, and is appreciative for all the support the fans have given over the seasons.
I think when the announcement was made that the show was canceled, there was this initial feeling of sadness, but then there was also this very touching feeling, seeing that outpouring of love in the fan community and just seeing everybody come together, and whether it was trying to save the show or reminiscing about all the good times you had, it was just very sweet. Ladies, what did we think of this final episode?
I think this is the best finale Z Nation's ever done. Best season finale.
Oh, season finale. Okay.
Yes.
It's the least infuriating.
Well, that's maybe by design.
I mean, it's also the least apocalyptic.
It is.
Every single other one has been like, oh, the world's about to end. Again.
This entire season was about humanity.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was a nice change of pace, because there was this underlying fear in me that it was going to end with either a major cliffhanger like we had at the end of season 1 and every subsequent season afterwards. And there was also a part of me that was like, oh, I threw this out there ages ago, but I was like, please, please, please don't make it all the bombs are actually from the end of season 1 are still falling, and this is all taking place in Citizen Z's mind right before the bombs strike. I'm really, really glad that neither of those things happened.
Well, and we had that moment where Warren woke up. I just thought, wait a minute, was this whole season a dream? No. And it wasn't, but it was definitely just okay.
It was like, thank God. Before we dig too deep into the episode, we have a quick announcement for you guys.
Hey, AfterBuzzers! Our network produces after shows for nearly all your favorite TV shows, from dramas, reality TV, sci-fi, and more. There is no network that works harder to serve television fans. But we need your help. We're asking that you please subscribe to one of our more...
You got this.
I've had 2 sips of champagne, man. That's it.
I
Good
told
night,
ya.
everybody.
Oh my.
We're asking that you please subscribe to one or more of our YouTube channels. By subscribing to our channels, YouTube will suggest content that's tailor-made for you, and you'll help AfterBuzz continue to grow. And if you're worried about pesky notifications, don't be, because they're optional. So hit that subscribe button now for this channel and check out our other AfterBuzz YouTube channels as well. Let us know you did so in the comments, and we'll thank you on air. For now, thanks for being the best TV fans and for helping us be the ESPN of TV talk.
Thank you so much for that.
This is where we usually plug the animation channel, because that is also where Megan and I live.
It's a-
Voltron's back.
It's a good channel.
It
But
is.
also, yeah, that notification about going live is really, really useful. As you guys might know, obviously, with the new year, a lot of schedules sort of got mixed up, and a lot of shows are making up for lost time. So it's really important to stay up to date.
We were busy on New Year's Eve.
A little bit. And the studio is closed.
That too.
For sure. But we are keeping an eye on the live chat, and we are also keeping an eye on the hashtag ABTVZNation. For all of you guys watching live, if you guys have any questions for our fantastic guests, let us know there. We will relay those. So guys, this was the season finale. How did you guys approach this one? Because as we sort of were touching on a moment ago, this felt very different than a lot of the season finales that have come before.
Well, we didn't know for sure if it was going to be the series finale or not, so I had to write it to play either way, which we've done every season. Actually, was sort of the idea, and so there was definitely a season 6 to go to had they said yes and wanted more, but I think it seemed different because it was a different season. It had more of a continuous story, I think, this season than before, and was all of a kind of a single allegory kind of story, and had a lot more to wrap up than we usually do, which is usually we're goofing around, and then the last couple episodes we come up with something that sort of propels or brings back the beginning of the season. But this season there was really a strong thread through every episode.
So when you guys sat down to look at the season as a whole, you kind of knew that you wanted beginning, middle, end, and this is where we wanted to end up.
Well, he did. He doesn't tell us any of this stuff until the scripts are published. But I mean, I was as surprised reading the script as I think most people probably were watching it. That this it sort of wraps up and it's kind of an up note. We kind of won, I guess.
Yeah, sort of. It's
We didn't-
kind of a Z Nation win.
We didn't kill any other major characters.
Yep.
Cool.
Well, and so much of it is we kind of backfill the story to make it seem like, oh yeah, we had that planned all along. To wrap it all up, and the actors are so good at sort of making it all feel of a part and continuing their arcs. And I mean, that's really the hardest thing, is just doing justice to all the great characters we had and making sure that we wrapped everybody up at least a little bit in the end, and left enough people alive so in case it went another season, we had something to come back to.
Alex, when directing a finale, whether it's a series finale or a season finale, is always challenging. So how did you guys sit down and sort of figure out how you wanted to approach?
I don't know that we treated it at its base any differently than any other Z Nation episode. You sort of you break it down the same way, and it's what are the major things you want to hit, and it's certainly the square off between George and Pandora, and then the square off between Warren and Estes, and then her reunion with Cooper, and then wrapping up particularly George and Murphy's sort of stories and giving Murphy that last moment. It's like, well, what are the most important beats we need to hit? Let's start there, and then build out around that. And of course, make sure we continue, because it's a very continuous episode from episode 12. Make sure we keep the same feel and flow from the story points that are set up there and make sure they pay off. But otherwise, we didn't approach it too much differently from any other episode.
But it is harder for you because every scene is like a big emotional like wind up scene. There's no coasting in there at all. It's like they're all this is the last we're going to see of some of these characters. At least for a while.
As long as you think that watching the footage, I'm good.
Yeah, no, it was.
Talking about like kind of looking for ways to sort of wrap up different characters' storylines. One of the things that we get to see is Doc and his role in the plan, which I don't think I could have thought of anything more perfect for Doc to do in this episode.
I'm amazed that he survived that. I am amazed that they didn't just shoot him on sight.
Yep.
I was
That's what
expecting
they
that.
said they would do.
Yup.
We had one version that was like that, but then we changed it at the last minute.
Dare you. Thank you. Oh, so many feelings at once. I love that he had the clapper thing, and I like to think that's why they didn't shoot him. 'Cause that's how
They were like,
got
really?
tricked. They were just like, we fell for that.
I think they just couldn't believe it. They were just so dumbstruck that they didn't shoot him.
Well, and they needed to know where the talkers actually were.
That too. But
One of
mainly
my
the hand
favorite
clapping thing.
pieces of Doc action is when it all starts to go to heck after 10K shot a couple of the guys and they're all turning zombie and he's just sneaking away like just kind of like here I go.
That
It's
is
just
my
like
cue.
so perfect of his character.
Puts the glasses on and
Right? Yeah.
saunters
Just
off.
exactly. He's just like throws on the dark glasses as he's heading out of the frame.
Which is also, that's a Russell flourish. That's not something he was like, can I show you something?
Right.
And it's
That's-
Russell, so the answer is yes.
I was just about to ask if he improv'd anything for that particular scene that made it to the final cut.
He improv'd a lot.
I think they do in every scene because these are written so fast and and you get there in the situation and the scene doesn't ever work exactly as it's written, and these guys are always so good. And our rule is sort of get one as scripted, and then if you have time, go do a couple other versions. So and then by the time we get to editing it, everybody forgot which one was the written one, and we just go with the funniest one.
legit.
Good policy.
For Russell, I definitely think that's the best policy.
Oh yeah.
But we also, there's a lot of laughs in this episode because it wouldn't be a Z Nation episode without a few laughs here and there. But we also get this really touching moment with 10K, which is, I think, why we were so anxious when Doc was the one sort of that was like a key piece in this ambush, because he says, "I love you, kid." And in the previous episode, talking about how they flow into each other, we had a really great moment between the two of them. And so right before they part ways, I'm sitting here going like,
He's gonna die.
I was really anxious.
Just gonna hang a bunch of death flags on him and then saunter away wearing sunglasses like, yeah, it'll be fine.
But yeah, Michelle, you mentioned that you've been really frustrated with 10K this
Yes, I
season.
have.
Did this episode alleviate a little bit of that, or are you like, nope, I feel like I could like he needed to do more?
I feel like the hug was in character for who he is as a person.
That whole
Was that
claw
a good
bit.
political answer? That didn't really answer.
So,
how I feel.
so what was your problem with 10K?
I get he lost his hand, but he was very self-centered this entire season and didn't seem to give a single shit that Sarge died. And that Red was going through some emotional trauma of chopping off her boyfriend's hand and then dealing with other stuff, and then he just took off.
He just kind of wandered off.
So the fact that he hugged Doc after Doc said "I love you" is like, yeah, that's on par. But it's also
Right.
the most emotion I've seen out of him.
Well, that's a little bit his character.
Yeah.
I mean, part of it is everybody in reality would be so emotionally damaged and
Yes.
traumatized. Any sort of normal human behavior would be a rarity, I think. But, that's legit. Because, once we cut off his hand, it was like, oh shoot, what do we do now with him? Like, I don't know. All right, he's gonna get a reindeer hand. We know that. It's like so. But that's part of the problem with having so many great characters
Yeah.
and having such a strong story that we owed things to. So just keeping them all in there and a part of it and what was going on. And
Was there anything else that you guys wanted to shine a light on or for a particular focus, but didn't have the time to do because there was a lot of world building this season.
I don't know specifically if I can think of anything. I mean, mostly it was just we had a lot of plot to get through and making sure we had enough character scenes where they just got to hang out and just, sort of do their normal business and just keeping the zombie of it all alive. And because we did have a lot of human story to tell. Not losing sight of what it is that makes it Z Nation. So,
speaking of, we had our final Z kill of the series this episode, and I think you pointed that out the second time we watched that was, oh yeah, this is the final straight up zombie kill of the series, isn't it?
Way to go, Addie.
Where was it? Oh, it was the
Addie.
Addie.
It's the only zombie kill in the whole episode. I mean, except for Pandora, I guess.
Yeah,
Talkers the zombies, but
who was a talker, right? Yeah.
I put Pandora as like final boss territory. This was the last normal zombie that got killed in the entire series.
And she had fun.
who also, if not the stunt person, I think, if not the first, was one of the first zombies we ever killed on the show.
It was a 5-season zombie.
Yeah, he's our most killed zombie.
It was so funny because some of them were. I've never seen him out of makeup. So and then they're posting on Facebook, and it's like, oh, that's who that was. Wow.
I've literally never seen your face before.
After 5 years, I finally see you. I think it's really fitting that our last zombie kill of the series goes to Addie and the Z-Whacker.
I think so too.
Because that Z-Whacker has come to represent the series.
In a lot of ways.
Pretty iconic.
Yeah. Oh, man. Aw, good for Addie.
She has a few things to work out.
And I know we talked about this a little bit when we discussed the last episode, but I really liked the interactions between her and Murphy in this episode as well. Mm-hmm. They make a surprisingly good team.
Just the exchange about don't go being you, stick to the plan. We never got this far sticking to the plan. Like, on one hand, legit. On the other hand, also legit. Like, everyone has a point.
And Murphy, like, all of the characters have gone through their own individual journeys. Addie's in a very different place than where we started off. And Murphy has grown a lot. Like, there were a couple moments where, we've seen it a lot throughout this season, but one thing that was really telling for me in terms of his character growth in this episode was when they return to Numerica, or Altura, and he literally says, save some action for the rest of us. Mm-hmm. And I kind of smiled because I was like, aren't you the guy that's always running away? And he's like, no, I want to fight.
I want to punch people with my spiky gloves.
Always running away, always in the back, always hiding behind other people. And he led the group right up to the fence. And then he demanded they open the gate, and he came through. And then he said, save some action for the rest of us. He's grown up so much. I think red is good on him.
Red's a good color.
Yeah, no, it's hard to think of him in flesh tones.
It is. Yeah, it's been a while.
But luckily, he'll be able to work anywhere, and people won't, he'll be able to completely be another role.
Because even from episode 1, he looked pretty dead and gross.
Yeah.
Starting off right off the bat.
Well, that's one of the funnest things about the show is if you go back and look at some of the early episodes and see just how much they all changed and how they wound up, and we let them evolve into who they really are in a way. And, once you get to know them and pull out their own real personality.
Well, like Doc's hair is so much shorter.
I know.
He actually is
time,
a kid.
Right. I know. He's so young in the first episode. It's amazing.
We had him in for our third after show, I believe, for this Nat.
Oh,
yeah.
Yes. Sorry, I thought you were talking about Doc. I was like,
oh no,
Russell didn't come in until towards the end of that first season.
Oh no, my brain went somewhere else. You said he really was a kid, and I'm like, yeah, wasn't he like 18?
Yeah, he
He was a baby.
Yeah, he missed his prom.
Yep.
Come to the first episode.
I mean,
right?
Yeah.
Just like TV show.
TV show.
But talking about sort of Murphy's changing and evolving looks over the course of the series. We had some pretty cool effects in this episode, I think, namely with Pandora's makeup. And I wanted to ask, what was your guys' favorite effect that the series captured this season?
Wow, that's a tough question.
I mean, Pandora's was pretty dang impressive with the eye
Pandora's is-
socket and the. Yep.
Her whole Phantom of the Opera thing was just
Yeah, that was
spot on.
very cool.
She's Two-Face.
I liked Charlie's brain was fun
Oh, yeah.
That was really good.
conceptually, and the
I mean-
jaw falling off of the zombie when Murphy's talking to him,
Yes.
so he can't answer him. That kind of stuff was fun.
Yeah, and the so makeup effects. I mean, I also have a just as a practical effect, the blood cannon they built for Sarge's death,
Yeah.
which
Yeah.
was something like 20 gallons with a. I think they built this giant tank called the Sargenator.
We had to send her out in a big
Yeah,
way.
that's that. But that was a very fun effect.
I think you mentioned that you were surprised at how actually big the blast was for that particular effect.
They also didn't tell me they put a head in there.
Right? Yeah. That's always fun.
But it shot really well.
You did.
But no, the Pandora face I think is probably that was. I mean, that's certainly the most build up to a reveal we've had in a long time.
And that's one of those ones where they're working on that for 6 episodes coming up to it. You know, we're talking about it and planning it.
And I think it was a 4 or 5 hour makeup.
Oh, I'm sure.
It was we had to build our whole day around like getting some stuff with Pandora in the morning, sending her for half a day to get the makeup appliance on, and then coming back and just shooting that for the rest of the day.
Were there portions of her face that had green fabric on them so that they could be chroma keyed out for digital effects?
Yeah, the eye socket,
Okay.
because the hollow eye socket needed to be done later, so that's green, but everything else is practical.
That's really
That's awesome.
I was
impressive.
wondering about that.
Yeah, we were definitely looking at it going, okay, what ratio of this is CGI and what ratio
There's
is
actually like
practical
little
effects?
wormy things that shake in there when she moves, and there's all kinds of cool stuff.
Yikes.
That's so cool. Well, we're talking about Pandora right now. We should probably go ahead and talk about the big showdown between Pandora and George.
I love that she runs off, comes back in this battle outfit covered in spikes and this specially painted mask. Like, how long have you been waiting for this showdown? Like, you knew. And I'm sure she has like a cupboard somewhere that's just different masks with different levels of paint. Her stealth mask has no makeup. Like,
I'd believe that.
Well, and because it's Z Nation, we make light of it, George, which again I think was an ad lib, or maybe they brought
No,
it up.
that was always scripted.
Was that at a
Did
table
you
read?
change
I
your
felt
outfit?
like
No, because we didn't do table reads this year. That
just
no,
for,
that
we
was
did,
definitely
we did for the finale.
right. But it was definitely always in the plan of the. Because we wanted her to change, and it was like, well, should we just go ahead and do it and not say anything? And then, because it is Z Nation, so you don't have to you could get away with a few things that you might not do otherwise.
hashtag Z Nation fashion.
Yeah, but it just seems so funny that it's like, well, let's just play it for real. She would go get an outfit on because she knows there's going to be a big fight, and
And
George
then
would
George
go,
makes fun of her
"What?"
for it.
Yeah.
I thought she was just wearing that under her cape the whole time. And then it's like, wait, no, she was in that weird little vinyl ruffle
That
dress.
Right.
latex
Yeah.
looking dress. Yeah.
Yeah, it sounds like, oh, okay, she would. In her defense, having spikes all over you makes you much more difficult to grapple.
That's true.
That's fair. That probably wasn't easy.
I mean, that's been Murphy's plan the entire season is just like spikes.
If I just
Everybody's
cover myself
good.
in
Right.
spikes.
Who
I'm good to
wore
go.
it better?
I do like the choice of mask too, because obviously if you're going in for a fight, she didn't just go with something that was a rough approximation of what her face used to look like we've seen for the rest of the season. She goes with the straight up skinless approach that I guess is meant to intimidate.
She's Darth Maul.
Yep.
It's the full-on
little
Darth
bit.
Maul
I
mask.
I know that the answer is going to be no, but have either of you seen Hellraiser?
No.
Really?
In the first movie, there are a couple of people who walk around without their skin, and so you just see like muscle and sinew and everything like that. And so looking at that, the way her mask was designed, I got a very Hellraiser vibe.
Oh, that's
and
cool.
I really appreciated it.
I'm sticking with Darth Maul.
I think we actually started from a place of like kabuki,
Yeah,
like
Japanese,
kabuki theater, and then
like those
that's so
warrior
cool.
masks. Yeah.
make it angrier and horror.
I think that is like perfectly in line with something she would want to do, for sure. I really liked it. Really dug it.
Did she paint them herself?
The masks.
Yes.
Well, Lydia didn't. Pandora
Well, no.
probably did. That strikes me as a.
She seems
Or
to
she
be
had a
the-
minion do it.
This is
Right.
what she does to unwind. She paints and she throws she throws pieces of people to Pierre. There's a reason I had trouble with that one.
She threw pieces of people to Pierre. Can't do that anymore.
Pitched pieces of
Pieces of people to Pierre.
Literary present.
I like that. The the alliteration is great.
Pierre, people later.
But since we're talking about Pandora, let's jump back a little bit to the beginning of the episode, because we see sort of the deterioration of her and Estes's unshaky alliance, which is interesting because something we sort of debated a little bit throughout the season was which one of them was actually in control, which one was using the other one. And throughout the majority of the series, like, I kind of thought it was Pandora using Estes.
Same.
Yeah.
It
but
was.
I feel like that was kind of by design.
The-
Was it by design?
a little bit, I think. Yeah. I mean, it's interesting because some of it is the dynamic of the actors and their personalities and who's playing who. And Lydia Hurst certainly brought all the licking to all of that. That was her whole thing of being. She liked to be super creepy, and really leaned into that aspect of it and made herself, stand up to. Because originally it was going to be a male character. It was originally written as like a really scary, like his right-hand man, this really scary enforcer guy. And then we saw Lydia, and we all had a guy we were going to cast, and then we met her. I think as we were looking at her for George, and she didn't seem like big enough and strong enough for George so much. But then thought about her for like, ooh, what if we made Pandora like sexy, dangerous weirdo, basically. And she was totally down with it. She was really into it. So
That's really interesting because her final words to George are, "I could have been you." Was
right.
was that a little bit of a meta joke?
I actually no, maybe not consciously, but unconsciously I can't say. But yeah, that's interesting. I mean,
that was sort of the one chink in the Pandora armor, I guess. Is Lydia especially leans so much into the villain sort of characters. Like Estes is this sort of more like he has sort of a political purpose. And I guess as a believer, Pandora is just a more classic villain. But in this moment of like, well, in the apocalypse, if you push anyone far enough, maybe they turn into Pandora. She has this moment of like, I am what the apocalypse made me.
yeah, I think that was sort of the idea was that had things just broke differently, you would be me and I would be you. This could be turned around the other way if I, but half my face got burned off, so I'm in a bad mood all the time, and I'll mess with people. So
Well,
I don't like humans.
something really fascinating about Pandora is the story we're not being told. It's the visual cues. We've known all season long that there's a story behind what happened to her face, how she died, and how that informs who she is as a character and why she's doing what she's doing.
And she separated herself from the rest of the talkers. She doesn't identify with them in any capacity. It's like, well, these are your people. No, they're not. No, they're not. But she's also still, she broke like the human she is. Like, okay. Are you... That's a lot of Orwellian doublethink going on. You all right in there? And the answer is no.
She put herself in her own world,
She did.
her own category.
I mean,
With Pierre.
Yep.
I feel like any anytime we see her sort of left to her own devices, we see the sort of nature of how sadistic she is. Like, just this opening sequence where she's dancing with Sunmay's like brainless corpse is a really chilling image to open the season finale on.
Well, and then they next to Sunday's corpse, which is like, there's a dead body in this room. Are you sure you? Okay,
I mean,
cool.
technically 2 dead bodies, but like that's neither here nor there. That's splitting
Okay, but
hairs.
one of them is moving and one of them really isn't. And this is where you ask questions and then back away from those questions because you don't want them answered.
I try to do that every episode. I have a few of those.
I mean, once we got the hold still and let me stick my tongue in your ear scene, everything else was just like, all right, it's gonna be weird. It's just gonna be weird.
Well, the other thing, not to further ruin your day, is, you imagine why she wears that latex suit. And maybe what it might be holding together.
Oh, yeah. Oh, no, I would imagine that it's just terrible all the way down.
Ooh.
Her left arm
Some
was
people
worse
are
than her
into
right arm.
that.
Like, the makeup effect on her left arm was more severe than the makeup
true, although there
effect
was
on
a
her right
lengthy
arm,
debate
so it was
about-
just like the...
Right.
About that space that was between her shoulder and her glove, which I don't think originally was intended to be seen. About like what to do with that and how
Right, make it look rotten, I think.
how
was
bad
what
is
we
how
did in the
how
end,
bad is that going to be?
to remind you that she was a talker under all that.
Yeah.
Well, I feel like it was a really good balance. Worked out. But I really appreciate, again, knowing that originally Pandora was going to be a man. I really appreciate that you guys went the other direction because you liked Lydia's performance, because this series has always focused on its strong female characters.
Mm-hmm.
And not to sound like a broken record, but that's so refreshing.
Yeah, thank God. Just like, yes.
So I kind of appreciate that our final big bad is also another woman.
Yeah.
Well, we definitely by design try and do that. And that's also a function of having a lot of women writers on the show, because every time you come up with a character, they're going, it's got to be a woman. It's got to be a woman. What? All right, Pandora's a woman. All right. It's like, it's when you have those advocates in there and people who are pitching that at you all the time, and the show is sort of, it's the counterpart to, or the answer to The Walking Dead, which is very sort of testosterone driven, male energy about it, and our show is kind of a different end of the apocalypse a little bit, and it's a little more evolved, I like to think. Yeah.
And a potential actual end to the apocalypse because we have a cure now.
Yeah, Sunmay's final action was creating at least a starting point for the cure. And her final wish is for them to take her brain and for them to give it to Murphy, because he'll, quote unquote, know what to do with it.
Cackle into the camera as it fades.
Right.
And we get this great moment of him having a eureka moment and giving that smarmy Murphy laugh, and then we cut to black. So I guess it's sort of a moot point because the series is done. But like, in your guys' mind, let's go around. Where does Murphy as a person go from here? Does he regress, or does he actually, take some of those lessons he's learned and move forward?
It depends on whether or not Warren decides to stay, because she has been his moral compass for a chunk of time now. And I would be, it's really going to depend on what she says, whether she sticks around with him, whether she is able to steer him a little bit or at least influence him. So I'd say, honestly, it's on her.
I feel like he would express wanting the freedom to move from Limbo to wherever back to Altura as he pleases. But I also like to picture him as the head of the lab without having any idea what he's doing. He just holds the secret, and he's smarmy and smartassy and bosses people around. And he's trying to explain the science behind the cure.
Well, can you think of a less responsible caretaker for that kind of, great secret? I mean, the last time he did this, we wound up with Murphy Town and all the, his blend army.
Yep.
And all the issues that came with that.
After eating her brain, he knew what season 6 would be.
Right.
What's in the cooler? Season 6. Give it to Murphy. He'll know what to do with it.
Eat it and keep it to himself.
Right.
Well, I do, like, I feel it's sad that we're not getting another season, but at the same time, ending on this ambiguous note of, again, it's the same note we started on. It's the future of humanity lies with Murphy. And, you know, everything sort of has come full circle in that regard.
Aw.
I feel like we as an audience trust Murphy a lot more, though. Like, we know him better. He's not just the payload getting dragged hither and yon and being extremely unhappy about it the entire time. He is his own person, for better and for worse.
Yep.
Well, we leave him in a place of power. He's the only one with the knowledge. And he can decide what to do with it. It's not, you know, at the beginning he's just the carrier.
And historically, Murphy's just been great with handling power.
Well, I would like to think people learn from their mistakes.
You would, wouldn't you?
Well, he also now knows what Sun Mei would do in his position, so maybe her, you know, her voice will be in his head.
Does he also know all of Sun Mei's secrets? Because I feel like that would be
She
a
did.
side effect.
Yeah,
She did work for the government.
I mean, that's sort of the mythology of, so, you know, whatever's convenient to the writers, you know, by eating the brains of one of the other characters.
I love that. He now has all of the secrets of the Chinese government also at his fingertips. That's pretty fantastic.
If the Chinese government is
Right,
still
if
around.
that's useful.
He could probably, like, call them up and, like, you know, impersonate her on the radio.
Someone
We'll just
take
dub her
Estes.
voice in. Like,
That'd be a fun Murphy power to play with if there were another thing is Murphy impersonations.
right.
He could actually be a genius doctor if he ate her whole brain because she went to medical school.
She
Right.
did.
Someone take Estes' phone. We need to try this. Just like, where are people getting these phones? I'm like, legitimate answer.
Kind of going off of that. Before we dial in on that, so to speak, I want to talk to you guys really quickly about iTunes. Folks, thank you so much to everybody who's gone to iTunes to rate, subscribe, leave a comment. We love hearing from you, and it was the best way to let our producers know that you guys liked this show that we put on. As, you know, we're going away, but it still means a lot for everybody who finds this show in the future. Please, if you haven't already done so, leave a comment, rate, to make it more searchable for people who find Z Nation in the future and want to use this as a companion piece.
I mean, it's on Netflix.
Yep.
So,
It'll be bouncing around the world for a long time, I imagine.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
I don't think the fandom will let it go. It's not a bad thing. Just saying.
Yep. So, guys, go do that. We love you. Everybody who, again, I said it yesterday, but thank you to everybody who's commented over the past 5 seasons. It means a lot. You guys are the best. Thank you. All right. Talking about Estes' phone, we find out what has been sort of Estes' sort of main goal this entire time. And it's not about the sort of figurative power that comes with being the head of a community, but it's actually literally power. It is a battery that keeps Altura going. And we discussed it a little bit yesterday, but I want to present this question to the table. Guys, did Estes have a point?
Again, if you strip it down to the hypotheticals, yeah. But once you start adding in people, that's where you get to the point of, oh yeah, cool motive, still murder.
Did Thanos have a point?
Oh my god. Again, I take us back to
Thanos.
cool motive, still murder. Also, Thanos was a goddamn idiot.
That
Infinite
is-
power, and he kills people instead of making more resources. Bless him.
That's why they call him Thanos.
But yeah, one of the big, I suppose, debatable aspects of Estes' character is whether or not he legitimately believes in what he's doing and really feels like it is the best course of action for humanity, or if it's just his way of justifying his terrible actions to himself.
He might believe it, but it could also be a case of absolute power corrupts absolutely.
I think it's all three of the things that you said, and he's accustomed to a certain lifestyle.
I mean, that's
She's a Zona boy.
He wants power to be on because he's listing all these things, and I was like, nope, people lived for hundreds of years without that. Nope, they did it with that. That's fine. I get electrical fences are convenient, but also spikes. Like, next argument. I don't.
Normal fences, candles. Like, go raid a mall. There's probably still a Bath and Body Works around somewhere.
There you go.
Or make
Zombie
your own.
candles.
So what was the intention from the sort of production aspect of it? Were you guys was he directed to be more sincere when he's sort of giving this assertion, or is he just kind of a
Megalomaniacal.
That's the word.
You're welcome. Megalomaniacal asshole.
Well, we've talked. We talked earlier in the season about how the talkers are sort of a convenient stand-in for whatever oppressed group you wanna make them, and he definitely leans into that as somebody who is prejudiced against talkers for his own reasons. We don't delve deeply into whatever they are, but we do know that he hates talkers, and so whether the battery and his argument at the battery is for legitimate reasons or not, certainly his actions are colored by his hatred of talkers as a group.
Well, and it's which one comes first. Does he, in order to justify his battery, does he have to also hate them, or does he hate them so he doesn't mind using them for a battery? And I mean, we definitely wrote him to be a legitimate believer in what he did. I think he sees himself as somebody who has all the information, thought about it, and did the math and said, well, this is the right thing to do. This is a hard decision. We can't argue about this and split the difference. This has to be done, though. And once you get to that point, if you really believe what you're saying, then you act upon that. And that's what he was doing. And Jack Plotnick's a wonderful actor and really was able to play both sides of that character and his. You know, he's a true believer that goes too far, I think, is.
And now we're back to Thanos.
But to your question, the sincerity is genuine. That was definitely how he was playing it. It's a sincere. He's coming from a sincere place. He's not trying to sell them.
And we wanted people all season kind of going, yeah, the talkers are a problem. Like, you can't have a battery. Forget about those people. They're dead. You know,
I have to wonder if his hatred of talkers comes from the fact that they're inconvenient. That it's one of those, it's no longer, it's a zombie, shoot him on sight. It's fine, they're already dead, they're just going to try to kill you. And now it's, all right, well, it's a talker, and they haven't actually turned, they're just kind of feral right now.
They've
They need
made
a
the
little
issue
help.
complicated.
Yeah. He seems like a guy who deals in absolutes. And this gray
he's
area
also
is a
doing the math and looking ahead and going, at some point in the not very distant future, there will be, if we don't kill them, there'll be more of them than there are of us, and eventually there'll be just them. So is that what is that the direction we want to go, and is that where we'll wind up? And we tried to make the arguments as sharp on both sides as we could.
I'm also wondering how you plan for the distant future in the apocalypse. Like on
Somebody has to.
Well,
He
you
has
start
a
you
cell
start with a
phone.
little safe pocket, and you sort of build out from there. It's like, okay, well, now that we have this, this enclave of civilization, we can start thinking about more than just tomorrow.
Let's bomb it.
I feel like anyone who has a functioning laptop, Wi-Fi system, and cell phone in the apocalypse can plan ahead.
I was
You can afford to plan ahead.
I was thinking more in terms of when your survival is not certain, how much sense does it make to plan for the next decade rather than the next 10 days? That's the point that I was going for.
Kinda
At
did
what
both
point
at
does
once.
I still
longevity
need it
become
with
stupid?
the counter argument that I gave you. I feel like he got lackadaisical.
I mean,
in his
Murphy even points it out. Where is everybody getting these phones?
Yeah.
And part of what that battery does is creates a telecommunication system for them. You don't necessarily need a telecommunication system in order to survive, but it sure is nice, isn't it?
I mean,
Well, and if you-
shortwave radios have been a
If you
thing.
think about it, there are places in the world now that, for all intents and purposes, are having an apocalypse, and it's over oil. It's not that different, and it's the same calculation. We just get to live a lot farther. We don't have to live amongst the people who are paying the price for our consumptive society. So
We're Zona.
yeah, we're a little more comfortable than they are. So yeah, if you had to take the oil from the people who were right here amongst us, that might feel a little different.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. I feel like the main cause of a lot of modern warfare is natural resources. So making the crux of Estes's sort of argument or his justification an energy source makes a lot of sense. So well done, guys. We're running a little short on time, and we haven't even touched on a returning character. Cooper comes back.
He lived.
He lived. And when we had you in the studio earlier this season, Carl, we were like, Carl, why can't we have nice things? It looks like we can. Aw. So thank you. We get this very nice thing.
And he wasn't even mad.
Well, it was super cool of Mario Van Peebles he had to really work hard to fly back and come in to just do that role and stuff. He was very busy and worked us into his schedule, so it was
That's
great to have him
awesome.
come back. He liked doing the show, and
Oh yeah, I think he left. I think he left the airport, came to set, filmed with us, went back to the airport, got on a plane.
Oh,
and,
wow.
yeah,
like,
went back
it
to
was
doing
that his window was
Empire
that
or
tight.
some. Yes, there's a couple big shows he's directing on and acting in and stuff. So
And like in between takes, he was like talking to his editor on the phone, being like, "No, cut there, move that cue here." And I want no, change the gunfire sound.
Editing over the phone sounds really difficult.
Yes,
I'm really glad we got to see this character return because he has a very important bit of information to relate to Warren. And that's the fact that, getting ready for the twist, she's actually been dead this entire season. Now, I wanted to ask because, it seems like that was sort of the plan from the start of the season, and that there's been a little bit of foreshadowing all season long that that's what was actually going on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we didn't want it to feel like a complete cheat. We wanted you to be able to think back, and all with the excuse of, she's a one-of-a-kind mutant because of all the different things that are in her blood, so...
And now hopefully you go back and watch on Netflix and look for all of the little breadcrumbs that got dropped over the course of the season to lead up to that reveal.
Yeah.
Yeah. Does this change our perspective of Warren as our protagonist, knowing that she's been dead this entire season?
Changes my perspective of her and Cooper's relationship.
Well, we don't know that much about him.
Everyone I love is dead, but only one of them is still walking around.
It's the apocalypse. Roll with it.
Yep.
Kind of.
Everyone in the apocalypse is broken.
We all
Right.
turn talker in the end.
Yep.
Yep.
Good point, Michelle. That's very true. She's just ahead of the game.
Yeah.
Now that I've ruined this for
Unintentionally.
But, shout out to Kalita because even though they didn't spend much time together, these two have a lot of really great chemistry. And she gives a phenomenal performance, realizing that, coming to terms with the fact that she's been dead the whole time, but is also she's overjoyed to see him, and she's processing the fact that she's dead, but that that doesn't necessarily seem to be a problem. It's a lot of emotion to go through in a very short amount of time. So, Alex, did you sit down with Kalita ahead of time and kind of work with her to be like, okay, this is what we're doing?
Yes, and she played conflicted, and we had to do it a bunch of different ways. She that was a scene, and those were moments where or when she comes around the corner and sees him for the first time. I think we have 6 or 7 takes of that where she does slightly different things, and it was finding the right balance of.
And he's just off camera with a bullhorn going, "You're afraid. You're happy to see him. You don't like him anymore. You want him. No, you don't want him." And
Oh
she's
my
just,
God, it's
playing
your
all that
ex.
on her. It's like a silent movie.
I think the bullhorn got smashed to pieces after. Oh no! Doc
10,
ran
right.
away with it.
No, wait, we want this story now.
No. Doc I think actually did run away with the bullhorn. Russell, after his scene.
Is that where it wound up? I know it was on the broken and lost list. Somebody had to pay for that.
Oh yeah, it got lost. Wink.
Russell just has a trophy case.
He's out in his backyard going.
I do have to say, after having Kalita in the studio the last time and talking about working with
Mario.
Thank you. I'm so sorry, Mario. Working with Mario and wanting to make out with him and just like being like, we can do this more. We can just, I'm good. So then when I saw the kisses,
another take, okay.
when I saw the kisses, that was all I could think about was just Kalita's inner monologue. We could keep going.
Of like,
Right.
oh, I
could just-
definitely messed that
Like
one
she
up.
pulled his face in and I was like, yep, that's Kalita.
Right.
That's not Warren.
We actually had to trim it down a little bit. That was a little too much. That
She
kissing went on a little
engineered
too
that
long.
whole thing and talking him into coming and the whole deal.
So like it's a heartwarming, powerful moment, but I'm also laughing because of Kalita.
You're also like, Kalita, you sly person.
Yep.
I love it though.
Yep.
I love it.
Oh.
Like, you know what you want, you go for it.
I think that was one of my favorite moments of the episode when she goes in for the kiss and he doesn't immediately. He's like, no, I'm still talking. And she's like, no, come on in.
I do love in this moment, I feel like with any other show, if someone asks, was it all a dream? It's like an 85% chance that no, you stupid. And then with Z Nation though, it was like straight 50-50 for me. I was like, which way are you going, Carl? What you doing to my heart right now?
Okay, we leave
Well,
that-
you did a great job with the shot too of finding a location for it and shooting such a spare room and stuff and the lighting and everything.
It felt like
It
a
made it-
shrink's outer.
Right, that it was so symmetrical a shot and everything. It made it seem otherworldly.
And we milk that moment for just as long as you can feel like we could get away with it before
like,
It was good.
is it a dream?
That would be true of every scene in Z Nation, though.
Legit.
We milked it for every little bit of the joke that was there.
After this heartwarming moment, we also have another heartwarming moment that obviously the final scene is with Murphy, but I feel like this moment is like the real heart of this finale, and it's George giving the speech to everyone at Altura with the election results. And so I wanted to ask, what was it like preparing for that moment? Because it is the last really huge emotional note of the season.
You want to talk about writing it, or
Well, you can talk about. I mean, it
Yes and yes.
well, definitely we knew it was the continuation of the speech that she doesn't get to give in the beginning, and knowing too that we were really not for sure we're wrapping it up, but we wanted it to feel like a classic character send off and everything. So it was pretty much written like that to be that moment, and then you guys found a great location for it, and the staging of it and everything was really good. Considering we had like 8 people and wanted to make them look like 50, so
Katie doesn't like public speaking.
She mentioned
She
that
said
last
that
night.
yesterday that she was having some trouble.
She was like rehearsing that thing in the mirror right up until like the moment we put her up there to do it.
that's so funny.
But I mean, she killed it, and she was just it was like pick your favorite inspirational speech from a big movie and just go to that place and be as big as you want. But then she layered in this very touching arc to it, especially when we get to the sort of roll call of characters, when the camera tracks down the line, starts with Russell and ends with with Addie and Warren, and that we did a couple of versions of that, and ended up, I mean, the first take of it is what we ended up using. But yeah, it was I used to love war movies, and that's sort of a classic war movie convention is the roll call. And so really making sure you get a couple of moments with each character, and we're trying to. The challenging thing was what order do you put him in, because that wasn't in the script.
Right.
And of course we knew that Warren was going to be at the end, but it's putting Doc next to 10K and putting Warren and Addie next to each other, and it was like, okay, well, where do I stick Citizen Z in this? And like he used to have a crush on Addie, so putting him next to her was kind of funny. He throws her a little look, and hopefully you're like, oh, that's kind of cute.
Which are the things, the little beats the actors bring to it, because they're, especially on a show like this where we're going so fast and everything. And the thing I always keep reminding them is you're you're in charge of your character and all the little parts that aren't written in between, and keeping them alive, and which is where a lot of the fun moments come from, and little beats and stuff like that.
Citizen Z and Kaya's relationship in this series was one of the most satisfying things about
Yes,
it.
it was.
Oh my God, yes.
It was great seeing him going from a guy who was isolated and alone in the worst of circumstances, getting to see him grow and become a family man was really, 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 really satisfying.
And she's so good too. Ramona's she's hilarious.
Just that little look she gives him when he's like, "I'm running out of change." She's just like,
You've been giving them change. Give me a Diet Coke, like the Diet Coke jokes.
Well, and things like when he's saying, do you want me to help you with that? And she just like barely looks at him like, no, fuck no.
Like, here's the entire NSA on a flash drive. Do you want my help?
Right.
You just gave me your help. It's fine. Everything's fine.
well, as always, we are running a little short on time.
We do that.
Let's go around the table. Final thoughts on this series. Let's start with Katie.
This was so much fun. I walked into this not knowing if I was going to like it because, again, coming off of The Walking Dead and not, believe it or not, I was not huge into horror at the time and still am a complete wuss. And it took me a couple episodes to really get into it, but I think by the time we hit cannibals, I was like, yes, I'm in. Let's go. And I've enjoyed the hell out of it.
It has been a treat and a journey, and we got to be zombies. Thank you for that.
Oh, yeah.
That was really fun. I would be remiss if I didn't say this about this episode because I loved this, and I feel like it was intentional, but I want confirmation. Just the symmetry in injuries between Pandora and Estes, how Estes gets burned on the left side of his body and Pandora's on the right, and it's kind of like they've been together the whole time, so it balances out. I
Yeah.
loved that. Was that intentional?
Yes.
Good answer.
Would you have told us if it wasn't?
Maybe.
Everything's intentional. I mean,
Everything's
it might have been
intentional.
unconscious. There's a lot of things like that show up in the show where even I, like afterwards, I go, wow, that was set up so well. How did we know we were going to, but part of you...
Part of
Just
you
knows.
knows.
It was
Part of you
just-
does know, like what the 5 years are going to be and what basically is going to happen, but you can't. It takes 5 years to articulate it to other people, and but there is a lot of it is there that's hidden to you, and
Yeah.
And the world is such a different place than it was 5 years ago. So
That's true, too.
Seeing the show evolve has been a great pleasure as well. Carl, Alex, final thoughts on this episode and the series as a whole.
I'll let you go first.
Well, I think the legacy of the show is that to a certain extent it'll be a reflection of the world in which it was created, but also that it has a certain timeless quality to it. It's not tied to a specific time or a specific place, but I think it feels like what it was, which was the product of a family endeavor, and that the people who work on the show, it's a small group. It's a group that really gets along and supports each other and has a lot of fun making it. And hopefully that's what people took away from the show.
Well, that was certainly the secret ingredient that made the show good. Is all the people in it were having so much fun doing it, and we're such a tight group. And even though we didn't have a lot of money and resources, everybody got the joke and was able to make every prop person, even the grips, because even if it wasn't exactly in the picture, they were keeping it funny on the set while we were working, and that attitude just bled through. And by design, we always said, like, if we wanted the audience to feel like everybody's just out of frame cracking up at what's going on here. And those, to me, the most rewarding parts are just the stuff between the characters and the fact that we could squeeze real emotion out of such a crazy situation, and which is a tribute to the incredible actors that we had, and the fact that we got away with it, and that we just did, we're able to do so many weird things without anybody stopping us. And that people responded to it, that was very, very fun.
Well, from the bottom of our hearts, we can't say thank you guys enough for all your hard
Oh, listen,
work.
thank you. It was,
Yeah.
you guys were. It was one of the first places we went where it was like, oh, good, somebody gets the show, they like it. Because we weren't sure at first. We didn't know, so.
Well,
Horror comedy.
Horror
comedy.
It's been an absolute pleasure getting to talk about this show, and we can't thank you enough for all of the hard work that you guys put into this show and for being so generous with your time, spending time with us over the course of several
We'll be back for Black Summer if you're going to do that one. So. Coming up, watch for it on Netflix.
Do we have a date for that, or is it just in the ether?
April. Sometime in April.
All right.
It's
Close.
coming up. Yeah, it'll come up. Probably going to come on right after Z Nation has dropped and sort of run its course this season, and then it'll come on after that.
Makes sense.
Nice.
Well, cannot wait to see what Black Summer has in store, because some of my favorite bits were flashback episodes.
Oh, yeah.
Going back to Black Summer, so I'm really excited.
It's a very different show. Totally different thing.
Well, I can't wait. Thank you both so much. Do you have any upcoming projects that you guys can talk about besides Black Summer?
Not me.
I'm working on a documentary, a child, a 12-year-old animal and climate activist who is trying to we're trying to make a documentary that's climate doc relatable to kids.
Oh.
That's incredible.
I love that.
So where can people go if they want to follow you guys and keep up with everything that's going on?
I'm on Instagram at DP_Yellen.
And I'm at Unreal Carl on Twitter.
Well, again, thank you guys so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
It's
Thank
been
you
an
guys.
honor.
It's been an honor serving with you, ladies.
Final sign off.
Final sign off. Michelle, where can people go if they want to keep up with you?
You can find me on Instagram at awkward_photographer because Twitter's taking a break.
Katie.
I'm Katie Cullen. You can follow me all over the social medias as well as on YouTube and Twitch at Kiaxet. That is Kiaxet. Voltron is back, and Rooster Team, as always, is on Wednesdays, and those are both on the animation channel. I am also on an Overwatch League podcast called On the Point.
And I'm Megan Salinas. You guys can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at the Menguin. That's TheMenguin. I also do a Lost retrospective podcast called No Love Lost. So go check that out if you want to hear me talk about television that's been done for almost a decade. So again, can't say thank you enough to both of you guys for joining us tonight.
I want to give
And
another
thank you,
little
guys.
shout out. Thanks to everyone who's been in the chat all this time. Thanks to everyone who's been in the hashtag all this time. You guys make this
Alicia
so much more
Perez, your
fun than
gift
it
game.
already is.
Yeah.
Yes.
Special shout out to Alicia Perez. Her gift game has been on point all season. You
Gift or gift,
rock.
whatever. You rock.
GIF game.
Just for everyone who has participated. Thank you.
You guys have made doing the show, even more special. Thank you all. So yeah, we love you guys. Thank you all so much. We might do a series recap episode, but we shall see. Anyway, stay tuned. Definitely subscribe to the channel to be notified if that happens. So thank you guys again. We will see you all in the apocalypse.
Happy trails to
Our founder, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and me, Maria Menounos, would like to thank you for tuning in to AfterBuzz TV. Remember, we're not just the first, we're the biggest in the world, and we're the only destination for all your favorite TV shows. Whatever you crave, we've got it. So go to AfterBuzzTV.com and check out our lineup. Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.